Today we're flying the DJI FPV drone. I'm going to be giving you some tips so you can practice and elevate your skills as an FPV drone flyer. So let's jump right into it. Let's take off first. We always take off in normal mode just to make sure everything is good with the drone. Say you put the props on wrong, which is very common. A lot of people put the props on wrong. I even do it sometimes, just because there's a super slight difference in the counterclockwise and clockwise prop. So if you put it on wrong and you try to take off in manual mode, it might go upside down, it might hit you, it might go crazy. So it's always better to take off in normal mode just to make sure everything's going smoothly with the drone. And then when you get to a proper height, like 20, 30 feet off the ground, then you could switch it to manual mode, and then you're off to flying. So you always want to have a stable grip with your controller. Make sure it's not flopping around. I love this little head strap. It's like the OG FPV controller strap that they use on their controllers, and that'll keep it stable so you can stand up, you can sit down wherever you want, and it won't move too much, especially the way that you should be holding the drone, or at least I like to hold the drone. It's with the fingertip and the thumb. A lot of people hold it with just their thumb as if they're playing like Xbox or PS3 or PS4. That's a lot harder to control. You want to have an extremely precise grip and the most amount of control over the sticks all the time. The best way to hold it is with your thumb and your pointer finger on both of the sticks, so you can limit how far you're pushing and pulling at the same time to create the most amount of resistance, so you have the exact precise point on the stick that you want to go to at all times. All right, so the first tip we're gonna go over is throttle control. Now, this doesn't seem too glamorous. A lot of people want to get in the air and start flying and doing flips and all these crazy tricks. That's cool, but you want to have a solid foundation as far as the basics, learning how to fly properly. So the best way to do that is mastering and dialing in your throttle control. And what I mean by that is, say I pick a spot to fly. Like right now I'm about 10 feet, 5 feet off the ground. Say I want to stay at that point and just continue to fly at that point. You'll notice my left thumb, it won't stay stationary. What it will do is it'll go up and down, down, up, and it will compensate for the wind and the different crosswinds I'm hitting as I'm flying forward. It isn't like a normal drone. FPV is a lot different than normal drones. There's a lot more control you need to have over it to actually just do a basic move and go forward. So what I want you guys to do is try to go as low as you can, and preferably not into crazy crosswinds like I am now, but go as low as you can and just try to maintain at that height. And this will require you going up and down with the throttle to maintain that height. It's something that you will learn to do automatically once you get used to flying FPV, but at first it is going to take some practice. You aren't going to be able to just fly at the same height. You do have to calibrate by going up and down, up and down, up and down to keep that same height. So practice with that, and when you can successfully go about, a good couple hundred feet with staying at a consistent height, then you'll know you're starting to master or have mastered the throttle control with going straight and trying to go as low as possible. So that's tip number one. The second thing you should be working on when you first start flying FPV is turning. Now, it doesn't turn like anything you've flown before. It doesn't really turn like an airplane, doesn't turn like a helicopter. It's kind of a mix between all of those things. So the best way to turn is first find out what controls are the most comfortable for you. So you should be able to roll, pitch, yaw, all comfortably with the sticks. And the way I have mine set up, on the left stick is throttle, up and down, and then left and right is my roll. On the right stick, up and down is my pitch, and then right and left is my yaw. Now, you're not able to pick this configuration default from DJI's sticks or modes that they give you. You go into the settings, you can go to the modes, and there's 3 different modes to choose from. This configuration, which is, funny enough, the most popular stick configuration, at least what I found, they don't even let you choose it. So I had to mod the controller, literally take out the back of the controller and rewire and solder new wires to actually get this configuration. So you want to be comfortable with the controls and understand which control does what. So what's your roll, what's your yaw, what's your pitch, and how you want to turn is you want to use roll and yaw at the same time. So both, right now I'm turning left on both of the sticks, both the yaw and the roll. And that will turn the quad in the direction that you're moving the sticks in. And this, just doing this one little thing, it may seem so easy, but when you have it, when you're actually flying the drone, you're actually doing this in person, in real life, it is a lot more challenging than you may initially think. So it becomes a balance of figuring out the drone, how it responds to you, how sensitive it is. The DJI FPV drone isn't that nimble or agile. It definitely takes some getting used to, especially with the controller if you have never flown before. Just practice doing that, just the roll and the yaw at the same time to do this. It's almost like a drift, and you'll slowly be able to learn how to turn the quad without flipping over or going out of control. Now we're going to practice the turn and stop. This is one of the most important things to practice, especially when you are first learning. And not so much in the DJI FPV case, because you can just hit a button and it'll stop it for you. But that's a luxury. With other FPV drones, anything other than the DJI FPV, you have to stop yourself by turning and stopping. So have you ever seen like an ice skater or a hockey player? When you get good, you figure out how to turn and stop. You use all your momentum going forward, and you'll turn and they'll dig their skates into the ground, and then they'll use all that force going straight down at an angle to stop themselves, to stop all that momentum that was going forward. Similar with FPV, as you're going straight, you turn, and instead of digging your skates in the ground, you use the thrusters, the props, to thrust yourself in the opposite direction as you turn, which will make you come to that complete stop. So I'll show you again. So we're going forward, say we want to stop right here. We'll turn and then thrust as we pitch. You can see I just redirected my energy and redirected my direction by turning and thrusting at the same time. If you do this quick enough, it will actually stop the quad in motion. And that is the best way to precisely land, precisely stop, because especially when, say you're on a traditional FPV drone, your camera angle will be pretty high, say 25 degrees. So you won't be able to easily, at least, slowly like look up and slow yourself down and then precisely land. It'll be a lot harder to do that. So what you'll have to do is figure out this turning, thrust, and then stopping, and then landing on the ground. In DJI's case, with the the fancy new modes and sport mode, you can just hit a button, it'll level you out and stop you, and you can land safely. But it is good to practice the turning, stopping, not only just to be able to turn well, but to be able to precisely land in a certain spot if, say, you needed to. All right, so we're at a new location now. We're by the canal, and we're gonna practice some of the things that we've been going over. The throttle control with the flying low, turning, and also a new trick, which is, I like to call it J drop. So when you go super high and then come down almost like a J, and then level out with the ground and keep going. Makes for a really cool cinematic shot. So what better place to practice than on this cool canal? So let's jump into it. We're gonna try to fly low, and then we're gonna turn. So first we're gonna turn with both the yaw and the roll, and we're also gonna practice flying low. And in this case, there's obviously more of a risk of crashing into the water if I don't maintain that perfect height. Now we're gonna practice what I call a J drop, and I'm sure there's a better name. It's essentially a cinematic move that is similar to a half pipe, or going up a half pipe and coming back down it. So in this case, we're at the end of this canal. We're gonna throttle up, and I'm gonna turn around and come back straight down where I went up, almost like a half pipe, and then smoothly right away. And that creates the cinematic, really cool effect. Let's try it again. I'll walk you through the controls and how to practice it for yourself. So as we approach the imaginary half pipe, or quarter pipe, we're gonna throttle up and kind of pitch up. And right when we get to the top, we wanna cut the throttle, yaw and roll to the same direction. In my case, I'm going left. And then as we approach the ground, slowly and softly engage that throttle again to pick up your momentum, keep flying away. Let's try that one more time. So we're approaching that imaginary half pipe. We're gonna do full throttle, pitch up a bit, and then here, cut it, roll and yaw in the same direction. And then come back down, gently engage that throttle, and then fly away. It's a really cool trick to practice, especially when you have something like this, straight away, or road, or canal in this case. Just be careful when you're coming back down. A lot of people like to just leave the throttle cut until the very last moment. And depending on your drone, if the DJI FPV drone does pretty well with how it picks up the throttle and how it goes from stalling, which is no throttle, to back to full throttle, or back to actually carrying the quad around. But a lot of drones, especially cheaper drones aren't good with going from stalled, which is what you're doing when you're cutting the throttle, back to flying and actually carrying the drone's weight around. So be careful when you are going from stalling to back to normal flying. You always want to have a pretty good control on how much throttle is needed to, prevent the aircraft from crashing to the ground. The next trick I want you guys to practice is definitely more an advanced trick, rotating around an object while tracking it. And you'll see what I mean in a second. Essentially what you want to do is keep an object in the middle of the screen as you rotate around it, and this will require you to yaw, roll, and use the throttle all at the same time to maintain that object right in the middle as you rotate around it. And especially when the object's moving, like in this case a boat, it is a little bit harder to keep that object in the middle of the frame. So instead of using a boat to practice that move, you can use a tree, you can use any stationary object that you can easily rotate around. Say in this case, we can use these this group of trees here. And you want to pick one object, say I'm going to say the middle of these group of trees, and just try to rotate around it while also keeping it right in the middle of the frame. And this at first is extremely difficult. It's hard to keep your speed going as you rotate it because it requires you to to roll to the side while maintaining the yaw and pitch to be centered on that object. So practice left and right. This is a really, really good move to have down, especially for a foundational move. When you do eventually take your skills to real life, to actual buildings or architecture or environments where you want to fly and get some cool cinematic shots, because the whole point of doing all of this and learning these tricks, the end goal is to get cool cinematic shots, to be able to fly wherever you want, be able to go as close as you want to the obstacles like I just did there, and get these cinematic shots, add to your personal brand by adding these into videos or even your clients' videos. That is the main goal here. A lot of people lose track of what the goal is. They just want to fly and blow some steam off or whatever it is. That's cool, but you're just leaving so much on the table. The main point of this is to get cinematic shots, is to diversify yourself and really set yourself apart as far as getting these crazy cinematic shots that require so much skill and practice to even be able to get in the first place. You just raise the barrier of entry when it comes to people being able to surpass your work and your quality of work when you're so good at these things that require so much time and patience to get good at. So practice these things here. Let's do that J drop one more time. Maybe go straight up, cut the throttle, yaw, roll, come back straight down, throttle again, and then right away. So practice these moves, the turning, the flying low, the throttle control, those J drops, and the turning and stopping. Practice all of these things here. If you practice those maneuvers and techniques that I just talked about over and over again, and you really dial those in, you will become an amazing cinematic FPV drone pilot. A lot of people don't practice these tricks. They just want to get in the air and start flying and do crazy stuff, and they don't really measure or work on anything, so they don't really improve. But if you work on these techniques more and more, you'll be able to fly low, you'll be able to get these cool cinematic shots, you'll be able to turn and get great parallaxes, you'll be able to track boats, say in this case, or whatever you want to film, and you'll just get better and better slowly. And definitely put those hours into the simulator too. I spent at least 20 to 30 hours in the simulator before even thinking about flying my drone in real life, just because of the risks that present themselves when you do bring your drone into, when you actually do fly your drone for real. Like, these things are expensive. It does not feel good to crash your drone and then have to fix it. And it's not really a matter of if you're going to crash your drone, it's when. So just make sure you're as prepared as possible when you do start flying. And I mean, you can only prepare so much. You really got to get in the air to actually know what it feels like, and how the drone responds to your throttles, your sticks, and what controls you like the best. But yeah, practice those tips and you'll be on your way. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Hope you guys liked that video. If you want to learn more, if you want to get more dates, if you want to network with higher status people, or you want to build your business on social media, check out the description below. I'm giving away free Instagram audits where I actually personally review your Instagram page and send you a video of it. Can't do it for too much longer, so we're very limited as far as the people we can actually review. Check out the link below to actually get your free Instagram audit. Talk to you soon. Peace.